Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nullify Take here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes, or as I like to say, the TM takes, the Mucky takeover, baby. I am your host, Mucky Hope, and today I'm joined by one of my favorite people on this planet. You know, he cooks up amazing stir fries. He's got a beard of a 60 Viking. It is one of my best mates, Hamish Clark. Hamish, how are you?
I am doing good now that I've been referred to as a sexy Viking. My like ego, which needed boosting for the day, is gone. Like it's fulfilled for the day now. So thank you for that.
Oh, anytime, brother, anytime. You know, that's what best mates are here for. You know, I'm here to boost your ego. You're here to boost my ego. I mean, it's naturally pretty high anyways,
I
but you're
don't
always
think I
here
ever
to...
do that. Sorry. Go on, bro.
Anyways, move along. But yeah, we're here to cover the second week of the Traitors, episode 3 and 4, and it was another great week. What's your thoughts on this week, Hamish?
Bro, like I wasn't scared that it would just be like a lucky start, that like the first two episodes were good. I wasn't worried that it would like fall off, but if anyone was worried about that, it doesn't fall off. Like it's still like it's after watching the two episodes on demand last night, I was just like in my mind for a split second, I was like, all right, next one, like let's binge this. But then I was like, oh, we can't. They're not out yet.
Yeah, no, it's often with most New Zealand shows that it will start off really good, but then it kind of gets like slower and slower as time goes on. But I really feel like the second week held up to the first week. If not, some parts are actually a lot better than the first week. What's
I
your thoughts
agree.
on?
I think that in the first episode, at least, even though it was good and there were some, funny moments, particularly with like the smartest move of the game and all that, I think that like it's a lot of like character development and like kind of setting the premise of what's actually happening. So it's kind of slow starting, even though it's fun to watch, but it's slow starting from like a gameplay standpoint. But now it's just like we're just watching like the game now, and now that like the character relation, or rather the player relationships, have developed more, and people are starting to become more comfortable with what this person's like, and we're understanding the game more because there are these little things that are thrown in, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that happens in this game. um it's Now it's like we're starting to like, when we were watching this together last night, like we were able to kind of like have these strategic conversations, like this
Mm,
person would be the right vote, this person would be the
mm.
right murder, you know what I mean? And it's like I feel like we're kind of getting like sucked into that now in a good way.
Yeah, and I think something that really helps us as well is that most people won't know this, but Hamish actually taught me improvised acting way back in the day. He coached theatre sports. I was one of his students. Then I became the coach, and I did a much better job. But but a game that we constantly played was actually Werewolf and Mafia, and definitely while watching the Traitors, both of us are able to watch the show and be like, oh, I recall when we played Werewolf and Mafia a lot, and
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
different
yeah.
strategies
It
the
makes it
werewolves
easier
would
to
do.
understand what the show's actually about, like to understand the premise of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But before we continue, let's welcome the people to the live, starting with Mad Dog Andre Lee. That is not a typical Kiwi breakfast. Where's the wheat pix? Oh my. Yeah, like what is up with that? It's a New Zealand show, but they don't have the iconic Kiwi, breakfast. What's
They
your
don't have a
take on
mince and
that,
cheese
Hamish?
pie from BP.
Yeah. Mince and cheese
I don't know
pie,
if you make
no can of V.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no
no.
blue V. Smoko.
Well, I guess now that we should, I guess we should, ask a question. Are you a Vegemite or a Marmite person, Hamish?
Me?
Yeah,
Oh, bro, why you gotta out me? So, like, it makes sense to say Marmite because, like, I'm a Kiwi, but, I guess you tend to, like, feel more comfortable with what you've grown up with, you know what I mean? And my
yeah.
mum is just one of those weirdos that prefers Vegemite, so I grew up eating it, and so now I'm one of those weirdos that prefers Vegemite.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I
not
am my mother's
acceptable
son.
That's not acceptable, Hamish. It's only
Off
Marmite and
podcast.
Marmite allowed. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna come to your flat and just beat you up for like,
You want
like,
I said that like I would be the next to go, either
yeah,
murdered or
exactly.
matter.
But also another comment here from Andre. Looks more like CD Bean Central Jaffa breakfast. I miss the CD Bean Jaffa lifestyle. Well, Andre, you're not missing out. Both Hamish and I, we currently live in Auckland, but we're from outside of Auckland. And I don't know about you, Hamish. Sometimes the breakfasts here just aren't as great. What's your thoughts?
In Auckland.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the
bro.
cafes and
I'm
stuff.
gonna look back on like the first 4 years of my life when I wasn't an Aucklander and just be like, yeah, bro, I'm not an Aucklander. I'm not. Um, and be like, yeah, bro, Whanganui, that's where the breakfasts are better.
Well,
Weet-Bix just tastes better down south.
we,
Something about the air in the morning. No, bro.
the mince and cheese pie is cooked to perfection at the BP.
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
bro.
Oh gosh. But anyways, we've got way way off track. But just before we do continue with the traders, thank you so much, Andre, for another $5. You are a superstar. It says that you've sent in a super sticker, but in actual fact, you're the super sticker. You're the sticker that sticks onto our podcast. You're like, it's the magic. We love it. So I was trying to make something work. It really, really wasn't going well. But
Well, as you were explaining it, I was also trying to think of how I would continue that joke if you like didn't know where you were going with it, and then where you went with it is exactly how I was thinking. Like
oh,
he's just sticking to this podcast.
no,
And
but all jokes aside, much appreciation, Andre. You're an absolute legend. Thank you very much. But Hamish, let's get right into it. Episode 3. We start off with everyone's coming into the breakfast where there's no wheat bix, there's no Marmite, and two by two everyone comes in and everyone's happy, but everyone is shocked because Chris isn't there. Hamish, what's your thoughts on Chris getting murdered?
I think that Chris seemed like the best murder there. Yeah, I wasn't surprised actually at Chris going. I just yeah, it felt obvious. Um, not obvious because like the production made it not like mysterious enough, but just like I just think it
Yeah.
was just the right murder. Um, as for what everyone else expected, I don't think that everyone else knew what to expect. Um,
Hmm.
I think that it's quite early in the game, and it's like we understand, why the traders would murder one person because we see like how they're talking and like what's going through the traders' minds, and we see their like side, what are they called again? Confessionals.
Yeah, the
Um,
confessions. Yeah.
but like as for the people who are just the faithful, like they're just in there blindly, like being like, oh, this person's pretty cool. And so
Yeah.
I guess like the first few rounds, like it'd be hard to gauge why XYZ was murdered.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And something that I took note of is that Dan and Matt specifically chose Chris because she's the sweet little lamb. She's like a bit of a social butterfly, so it would cause a lot of chaos and confusion, which definitely worked to perfection. Because once Chris got murdered, people started to look at Vanda because Vanda tried to get rid of uh, Chris at the last banishment. She voted for
Mm,
Chris, but then
yeah,
people were also suspecting, was this potentially Colin's doing? Because Colin tried to get rid of Vanda, and obviously that didn't work out. So why not get rid of the person that
yeah. It
yeah, that
threw like a
Chris voted
spanner in
for?
the works. Yeah,
Yeah, and everyone went into total chaos. Everyone's sort of calling out mostly Colin and Vanda, but then Dylan comes out with this great observation where right at the end of the last banishment, when Lauren receives the most votes and she's like, hey everyone, I'm a traitor, Dylan notices while everyone stands up and is like cheering and celebrating and just slamming on the table, Mike just sits back.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so like here's the thing, like having watched that back, he he's not sitting back like, oh no, like like I'm a faithful and we got out a traitor. I don't like that. But like you could tell there was a lot of tension before up until she was like, oh yeah, you guys got me, I'm a traitor. And so I like you could see him just kind of letting go of it, like like oh sigh of relief. Everyone else is like
Yeah,
woo, and he's just like relieved that she's gone. Um, yeah, I think it just wasn't that
yeah,
expressive, but
yeah,
people read into that.
yeah. And something about Mike as well. So he seems like a pretty laid back, chill guy. He doesn't really seem like the type that would, if there's like a Mexican wave at like a sports event, he seems like the type of guy who would not really stand up and join in the wave. He would kind of just like sit back and sort
Yeah,
of laugh as it happens. So I felt really bad for him when people started calling him out on that, because it's like, well, that's just who I am. That's just
yeah. He's just
you know.
like he's just more chill. Yeah, he seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, he seems super chill. But we'll fast forward to the
At Mike,
to
be
the
my friend.
mission, huh?
At Mike, be my friend.
Oh, but the mission, I found this mission to be a wee bit of an Uzi, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, Hamish. There's so many different mechanics to it where, so first of all, they had to divide into two teams, one of 7, one of 8, which one of the teams was called the entertainment team.
Mm,
And they had to go to a whole separate area where there were all these different handbells, and they had to play a tune of like a song that was in the book, right?
mm,
Which while they're playing that, another team, well, the other team has to figure out the sort of tune they're playing, and they have to match that to a music box, which then
mm.
inside that music box is a photo of a sculpture of kind of like a is it Cupid? I think the different
Yeah,
sort
like a
of people.
tube. Yeah. So like
Yeah,
one of them was that. Yeah, there was also a boar and two of them on a swing.
yeah, yeah. And once they, figured out which music box it was, they then had to run into this garden, find the right sculpture, take a photo of it, which then they had to run all the way back to Paul Henry to give him the photo. And even though it was a wee bit of a complicated challenge, I actually found it quite fun, like listening into the different tunes. Were there any songs that you potentially recognized just from the tunes?
From the top of my head, I think the only one like I wouldn't have guessed it myself, but once they pointed out that it was Amazing Grace, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And just for the people watching, like in case you're like, well, how are they playing it from this book? With these bells, basically these different bells are different like tones. And they would just be numbered like 1, 7, 5 and stuff. And so somebody would read from the book going 1, 7, 5, and the people holding the bell 1 would like hit it, and yeah, basically
yeah,
they'd make this tune. So it's very slow, and so the other team trying to guess what it is, they'd be like in the distance, and they hear in the distance like 1, bing, 7, bing, you know.
yeah.
So it was definitely not easy to guess since it wasn't like this constant coherent kind of thing.
Yeah, and something that I did really love though was like while they're running around the garden, they got lost trying to find their way out. And
Yeah,
this didn't
yeah,
happen one
yeah,
time.
Brody.
Brody was like, "Oh mate, I've gone the wrong way," and then she'll go where she thinks it's going the right way, but she'll run into another group going
Brody's such a
the wrong
character.
way.
She's very like yeah, she's got that like bull energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about Brody a bit later on into this podcast. This was definitely her week this week, but we'll talk about it a bit later on.
I do have
And
a feeling though that Andre would be good at this challenge.
oh, I didn't even see this. A comment, comment from Andre. They suck at reading notes and pacing the notes.
Yeah, yeah, like
As
it's
they
not
suck at
at a
reading musical
consistent
notes.
tempo, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I
If
will be
only you were there,
honest.
Andre.
Yeah, Andre, why weren't you on the Traitors, mate? You're,
Yeah, where were you, bro?
bro. You're too busy talking smack about the contestants, yet you didn't even show up. Nah, but nah, as a I don't know where to
Look at this guy, man.
go. Oh gosh, no. As a well, I'm not really a musician, but I can definitely see how like mistiming the tempo, you could probably actually think of it as a different song.
Mm,
if the tempo is different. Would you say that, Hamish?
yeah, because the rhythm would be different. Like, I'm not gonna get into music theory on this podcast, but if anyone watching it knows anything about music theory, it could change something to feel like a different time signature. Would be one thing.
Yeah. Andre has confirmed yes, he would. He can read musical notes. Well, Andre, you let the celebrities down.
Can we edit like a yay, Andre, like into the background? We
No,
should
just
totally have
Andre.
somebody with one of those little like keyboard things like on the side that clicks buttons and makes like sound effects while we do this. That'd be cool.
Yeah, no, that'd be sick. No, but anyways, something else that was really special about this challenge, Hamish, is that it was the legendary Paul Henry's birthday. And he said that this specific mission was going to be his best birthday yet. Do you think it lived up to his hype, Hamish?
Don't think it was his best birthday yet. Yeah, bro. Oh, hold on. Let me just go through my history, like the encyclopedia here, for all of his birthdays. Oh, nah, bro. His 17th birthday, he actually had more people show up. I'm sorry. I reckon he lied. I don't know. I'm going to Google now when his birthday is. Paul Henry DOB. Just purely out of interest. 4th of August.
4th of August.
That is
Wow.
Wait, so this was last year.
Yeah. No, bro. They're filming it just, a couple of weeks ago, man.
Wow, they're so prompt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's Paul Henry's birthday for anyone that wants to make his birthday next year even better than his birthday last year.
Exactly. We can all just show up with some handbells and stuff.
A painting of him as a knight.
Yeah,
True
exactly. But after the mission, everyone gets back in the cars and they start driving. And Brooke, once again, he is really good at, like sussing out everyone on who could potentially be a traitor. And he immediately susses out his friend Dan and says he thinks that Dan has been, a traitor just because of how awkward his body language is, especially when people sort of like call out, like some of the traitors and stuff, like, oh, the traitors, oh, this traitor. Like Danny's sort of has a bit of an uncomfortable sort of shift in him. And Brooke really nails it down onto him. Like he has him completely locked, but he's not sure if he should, rally everyone to try to take out his friend, or if he should find out who could be
I think
like
I
another
think he
traitor
was
with him.
probably I don't know if it was Brooke or if it was Brody. I remember somebody saying something about like thinking that somebody was a traitor but they were like not easy enough to vote out, so trying to I think it was Brooke was saying that he knew Dan was a traitor but he didn't think that everyone would vote for Dan, so he was going to try to find out who the other traitor was to get them out first or something like that.
Yeah.
Like see who Dan's like in with kind of. um yeah, so that scene definitely made me think like I dislike Brooke as a human, but no, like it made me scared of Brooke as a player because like
Yeah.
I'm Team Dan. Like I was pretty sold last time. Now I'm like, yeah, bro. Like I want Dan to win. He's who I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
And so any relevant threat to Dan, not just somebody being like, oh, I'm on to those traitors, but they're not, like Colin. Yeah, man. Brooke scares me, man.
Yeah. No, Brooke, he's very onto it. He actually sussed out Lauren as well and kind of got Lauren to crack a couple times, in the first couple of episodes. But
Yeah.
while Brooke is trying to suss out, who could the other traitors be, there's a lot of suspicion around Colin and Darth Vander,
Yeah.
because of Chris being murdered. Everyone thinks that both Colin and Vander are somehow tied to it. Either both of them are traitors or only one of them is a traitor. There's a lot of conversation about, well, the people who did not vote for Lauren could potentially be the traitors, which that ironically was Colin, Vander, and Matt, which Matt is, already a traitor. But Dylan, once again, he goes around and he tells people about, Mike and him not really, like celebrating as hard, with Lauren, being voted out. And once again, that raises everyone's eyebrows and suspicions. But Brody, she sits back on this one, and I feel like this was actually a good move from Brody to sit back on this one because, she sees Mike as a friend. They've done television work, before, but she doesn't want to, go out of her way again like she did last week in saving Robbie to try to save Mike. What's your thoughts on everything that happened before the
So
banishment?
okay, I guess that like I understand the idea of like uh going with the grain because like if you don't vote with the majority, do you look like a traitor? I get
Yeah,
that, but here's the thing: Brody seems to be somebody who is not an unsure person. She'll be 100% sure about somebody. She could be wrong, but she's not wishy-washy with what she believes. She either
yeah,
believes somebody's a traitor and she's wrong, or she's right. And so I think that if you're that sure somebody's a traitor, or if you're that sure somebody's not a traitor, let's say you vote against, not with the majority, but that person gets voted out anyway, and then lo and behold, you're right, that person was a faithful. I don't think people are going to be like, oh man, like, why did you not vote with us to get out that faithful? You'd just be like,
yeah,
no, bro, like, my intuition told me they were faithful. And I like to think that people would be like, you know what, maybe she's got like a good instinct. Maybe we should listen to her, you know? So I
yeah,
think not for everyone, but as Brody, when you're that sure of yourself, I think she should just trust her gut. Um, Maybe not drive it so forward and draw as much attention to herself, but I think I think she should trust her gut, um, which she ends up doing, which we'll get to.
yeah. No, I mean, this is really the theme with Brody, throughout this entire season so far. Whenever she's got a suspicion on someone, she goes hard after it. But also, not in terms of going after a trader, but in terms of saving people. In the first episode, or first week, I should say, everyone is piling on Robbie
Mm,
because she's the only, normal person in a cast of celebrities. And once again, everyone's piling on to Vanda for no real, solid reason. And Brady, she sticks up for Vanda, similar how she sticks up for Robbie. And it's like,
mm.
do you guys honestly think that Vanda would be that stupid to
Yeah,
murder
right.
someone who she was trying to take out? Which then she immediately points her daggers at Colin for Colin potentially being a traitor, um, trying to throw Vanda under the bus. And Colin takes some
Right.
heat. He takes a lot of heat during this
Yeah, yeah,
punishment.
that's true.
Yeah, like I forgot exactly what he said, but I'll just quickly find the quote now. Yeah, so Dylan, he calls out, Mike, and Mike, he's just a bit speechless. He's not sure what to say, but Vanda sticks up for Mike's being like, I really don't think Mike's a traitor, and everyone, they applaud for Vanda saying, you had an easy out there, but you chose not to take the easy out, so therefore we think you're a faithful.
Right.
But Colin, he sits there. He's got his fingers, twinkling, playing with this, cheeky little mustache, and
Did he look
goes,
good?
yeah, 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 he actually did. And he's like, Vanda, yeah, I think you're a faithful. And
Yeah.
just,
See, I don't get why that made people so mad. Like, yeah, he was
yeah.
gunning for her. It's like he's allowed to change his mind. But yeah, dude, like Brody and a few other people, no, you can't change your mind. You were against her, you have to stay against her. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that set Brody off. She like immediately snapped at him, and a few other people, start like, going
Here's the
hard
thing though, like yeah, he was
at
gunning for
Colin.
her earlier, but there were people in this episode that were gunning for her. Like there was heat on Vanda, right? And when those people are like, "Oh, actually, you know what? Because you did that, I reckon you're faithful." No, they didn't. They didn't get dirt on them, but because he
Yeah,
he was against her for more than one episode. Nah, bro. Nah, nah, nah. You have to stick with
that's
that.
off. That is off.
Yeah, I didn't get that. Brody confused me there. Why she was so mad.
Yeah. But she did apologize straight away, which I feel like was a great move on her behalf. Like, sorry for coming at you. It was just immediate emotional reaction. It was a very intense moment. But then, we get right to the vote, and poor Mike, he gets, really slammed slim dunked on here. He gets immediately Brooke and Sam's vote, but then out of nowhere, Philly finally gets some screen time, and he's like, "You know what? I don't trust this person. I'm voting for Julia."
Yeah.
Yeah, like were you shocked when Philly, revealed his vote to be Julia?
I wouldn't say I was shocked. I think that like I'm kind of expecting there to be a few one or two people that just have these ideas. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that happened in the one beforehand, right? When Lauren went out, like there were people voting for whoever, Chris or whatever. And so no, I just kind of thought like, well, he's just on a different buzz. you know?
yeah, yeah. He everyone was on one ship, but you know, he jumped over the ship and landed in the water with with
Yeah,
that
he's
one.
very observant. I'm not saying that his observations are necessarily right, but you can see that like he's like Brody, he's not basing his judgments on, oh man, like everyone's going for this person because we think this. He's just like, well, what are my experiences with these people,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which is cool.
And finally, Mad Dog Kings, he gets a bit of screen time as well. He says he doesn't trust Julia either. They're kind of like a packed duo, Philly and Kings. They're sort of like both thinking the same thing all the time. What's your overall thoughts about Philly and Kings up to this point?
I think that like okay, so they all, other than like some people for sure might be more outspoken than others, they all get the same amount of time with one another basically. So
Yeah,
like yeah, we don't see as much of Kings, for example, because he hasn't got a lot of screen time, but they've seen the same amount of Kings as they have Colin. And
yeah,
so I'm sure that they all have like a personal relationship at this point with Kings. Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see if Kings becomes more of like, more important or like vital as the game continues, or if he's just gonna be somebody who comes up because he's kind of a number. At the moment, the edit has kind of made him a number, but they've showed him a bit, like in the most recent two episodes this week. His
yeah.
name was thrown around a little bit by the traitors. Um, So yeah, I'm interested to see if he's just like we just don't see him much in the edit, or if maybe he'll come into the edit more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, both him. Well, we're definitely going to see the next episode. Philly gets a lot more screen time, but hopefully,
Mm,
Kings start to ramp up some more screen time soon. But then we start a little bit of a cheeky bandwagon here against Colin. We have Vander, Mike, and Matt all vote for Colin, and then we have Robbie on Dylan and everyone else. So Colin, Julia, Justine, Matt, Dylan, Anna, and Brooke, they all vote for Mike. But when the Colin votes started coming out, there was part of me that was thinking, could Colin actually be taken out here?
yeah, I
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to be taken out, but like it was evident that he was taking some heat.
Yeah, yeah. I thought he copped a lot of heat, especially with some
Mm,
of especially with his comment that he made, even though it was a bit of like I mean, I'm not sure how he intended the comment. Is it meant to be like a bit sarcastic and a bit playful, like, "Oh, I think you're totally unfaithful," or if he was being
right, right.
genuine? Yeah, I feel
Or
like
if
it could
he's
be
being
either or.
honest, but he recognizes that it's a little bit um like ironic of him to say that, and so that's why it's funny. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
point. Who knows?
yeah, but in the end, poor Mike, he gets unanimously voted out, and he tells everyone that they're playing well, but not well enough because he is a faithful, and
Hmm.
he walks out, and everyone's just
I don't
sad.
think he would have made a good traitor. Not to, talk down on the guy. Just what did the bro
Yeah,
say? The votes
or we'll
indicated
say
that
what
Mike King and Philly are
or Chachas.
brochachas and would not vote for each other.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It seems like they kind of had like almost a bit of a three going on at that point,
Mm,
especially when Philly and King revealed their votes. That he was like, thanks Philly, thanks
yeah,
Mike. We
maybe they
didn't say
like had a
thanks to you.
discussion, like not in the edit, right? But they were just like, well, I'm
Mm.
pretty sure it's Julia.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But towards the end of the episode, we have the traitors meeting, right?
Hmm.
And Matt says something which I feel like is actually, really good call from him, where the faithfuls are like, these really harsh animals. They're ready to just devour anyone. All it takes is just, a 20-second moment of silence or just the tiniest bit of suspicion, and everyone would just pile
What I
straight
believe
onto
he
you.
said was that the faithful are more evil than the traitors.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yep.
He said that at the end of his confessional line, and I truly feel like that is the case. We see it, time and time again, where they'll all sort of think of one. Well, they'll think of like two or three names, but they go really hard against those two or three names until eventually they'll all land on one, and then they'll all kind of just pile on that person.
Yeah, I
What's
mean,
your
it's
thoughts?
definitely a lot of you know, with the Mike vote. Brody didn't think it was Mike, but she
Yeah,
voted for him, and she even like in her confessional was mad at herself or like frustrated with herself for voting for Mike when she knew it wasn't him. Um, and she did it because she wanted to not look like a traitor, and so like basically the faithful, they're supposed to be voting against who they think the traitors are. They're supposed to be these good people that are like there for each other. But in actuality, like they're trying to save their own asses. And it's this kind of mass hysteria. It's kind of like if you've read like Lord of the Flies, how, everyone starts basically like killing each other, sort of. It's that
yeah,
like human nature, like everyone's out for themselves, you know? Um, and I think the faithful here, because they're so scared, which was the traders' plan. Like when they took
yeah,
out Chris, right? They what they wanted to do was to create this hysteria. They wanted to throw a spanner in the works and scare people and make people frantic. That was the idea. That was the point of killing Chris. It
yeah,
worked, you know.
yeah. It
Um,
worked to perfection.
yeah. So I think that this here, watching everyone kind of start go witch hunty, it's like this person said this like that. It's like that kind of Salem vibe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, the traders
yeah.
are doing well up until this point.
Yeah, definitely. And we see the traders meet, Matt and Dan, and they are extremely happy with how the vote went. They're over the moon at all the chaos that's going on, and they've got two really big targets. And I think they said like Colin and it wasn't Vander, it was Dylan. I think people are starting to get a wee bit suspicious of Dylan from being so
Mm,
hard at Mike and from to be faithful, where they decide to seduce someone,
yeah.
and
Now
they
now's the time. Like they've played off what they wanted to do. Now it's the time to recruit.
yeah, absolutely, and still kind of while the chaos is brewing as well. Like
Yeah.
Chris has been taken out. Anyone's not really safe. They took out Mike, who's just one of the greatest, nicest guys you'll probably ever meet. So then by
Hmm.
adding more mistrust going around the circle, it'll
Yeah,
give
they're
this
trying to
person
keep them
a
on
lot
their
more.
toes. If they kill another person, it's just like, okay, another person's been killed. But it's like they're trying to do what the faithful don't expect, right? And so it's like they took out somebody they didn't expect. Now they're not expecting a seduction, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there are three names that they're sort of going circling around. So they've got Brooke, because Brooke he's sort of like a bit of an alpha in the group, you can say, like he'll similar to Brody, he'll sort of lock in a few names and he'll go, really hard
Just send it, yeah.
against them and really get their names out there. They've got Anna, which also another real strong key player, and Kings, which I thought that was a bit of an interesting call to make. Obviously, we see Brooke get seduced to be the trader, but how well do you think Anna and Kings would have been as traders if they were chosen?
So Kings, I think that well, obviously we don't see a lot of Kings in the edit, and maybe he would have been better than like we think. But I think the only reason that Kings would be a good trader is because people wouldn't expect it, and so he just wouldn't be voted out. But aside from like having a good shield in that way, I don't think that he would have brought a whole lot to the traders team in the way of like tactics, kind of like influence.
Yeah,
Um, other than maybe with Philly. As for the Anna, uh, prospect, if they were to seduce her, I think that Brody is such a vocal part of the game, and she is influencing a lot of people. And if she's correct about who the traitors are, then she's very dangerous. But if she's incorrect, she's basically like a tool for the traders.
Yeah.
Let's get Brody to full send it on somebody else, and everyone follows her. And I think that Brody is very like influenced by her own experiences, but
Yeah.
I think we're starting to see that she's kind of got like a almost like a right hand woman, that being Anna. I think that Anna
Yeah.
is, her second in command, her like almost like advisor, They're
Yeah.
very like pals. And I think that if they recruited Anna, Anna could possibly influence Brody. And then so they don't even have
Mm.
like I feel like if let's just say they seduce Brody, Brody would probably overthink it and not full send it. She wouldn't go as hard. The reason she goes
Mm.
so hard is because she's so passionate about it. But if
Yeah.
they could manipulate what Anna believes with not Anna, sorry,
Mm.
with what Brody believes with Anna, um, I think that would be really, really powerful to use that. And if eventually Brody figured it out, then okay, like that, that tool being Anna would just have, served her worth for the traders. Um, but yeah, I'm happy with the Brook vote as well. I think the seducing Brook is also very uh, useful.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't seen enough game of Kings yet. Even at the vote,
Yeah,
he seems to be going with what the sort of majority of what his vote, Philly, thinks. With Anna, I actually really liked the point you brought up on. If you seduce Anna, she could be like the Brody whisperer,
yeah.
almost to sort of whisper her in the wrong directions the whole
And then the
time.
Brody's the everyone whisperer. She sways where
Exactly.
other people will vote. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I think Brook was a very good vote for a lot of reasons, particularly because he was on to Dan. Um,
Yeah.
you know, uh, and as more traders get voted out, Dan becomes more vulnerable. Um,
Yeah.
hinting at future votes.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, also like Brooke is obviously good at this kind of thing. He does have influence. He has a personal relationship with Dan. From like poker and stuff, and so Brooke and Dan would work well together. I think Brooke is he's just like a good player. He's powerful. He's
Yeah.
strategic. He's social. He's just like if you take away like his specific relationships and who his relationships are, I think he's just a good seduction. But
Yeah.
yeah, personally, like I would have enjoyed seeing the Anna seduction more because I feel like that would just be so chaotic to watch, like using
Yeah.
Brody as like a bazooka, just
Yeah.
like point
Yeah.
her over there now, like man,
Yeah.
I would have loved to see that, but no, it's good.
Yeah. Well, we all know I love a good bit of chaos, and I think definitely seducing Anna would have brought so much chaos to the game, especially, you wave, the red flag over someone and Brody will go, charging full steam full steam
Yeah,
ahead at
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah,
But just before we continue on to the next episode, poor old Mike, he does leave, you know, Mike is, with a broadcaster, I think for breakfast, I think, or like for TV3. What's your thoughts on seeing Mike and on the Traitors?
Mike on the traders.
Yeah. Oh no, well, like on the show, The Traitors.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh. um, I mean, I don't watch a whole lot of like the news, and I kind of just consume the news through like the internet and stuff. But I don't, yeah, I don't keep up to date through like breakfast and stuff as much. So I've seen his face around in ads and probably seen the odd thing when I used to live with my parents. But like, um, so seeing him on Traders didn't do a whole lot for me other than I recognize his face. Seeing
Yeah.
him like getting to see what he's like on Traders, like I think that he seems like a very kind, um and not like outspokenly kind, but like kind of like humble I think he seems like a humble person, which made
Mm.
me sad when he got voted out because obviously we know he's not a trader, and we just see like how he's just so like he's just taking it, and it's just, oh man, it broke my heart in a way. Even though I want the Traitors to win because Dan's one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, I felt sorry for Mike. I feel like he was definitely quite a honorable character on the
Yeah,
show, and he was fun to watch.
yeah,
He sussed out, Robbie in the first episode. He's able to suss out Lauren as well. So some of his reads were a bit off, but I feel like it was definitely entertaining to watch,
I agree.
regardless. So we open up here on episode 4, and it was kind of like an introduction to the boys, almost. Brooke walks in with his cloak on. He takes it off. Matt takes it off, and Brooke is just shocked because don't forget, Hamish, in episode 3, Brooke said, I'm putting all my trust in Matt to wear the same striped pajamas.
I forgot
As
about
I
that.
am.
And so, dude, watching that was the weirdest thing. He's like, I'm gonna see if this guy's a faithful by telling him to wear these pajamas. If he wears them the next day, he's definitely What does that prove? You could just say that to a traitor and they'd wear them, which is what
It's,
happened.
it's the Pajama Alliance, Hamish.
Pajama Alliance. Oh my
The
goodness.
Pajama Alliance runs pretty deep, man. Flying in colors with stripes, and he's
Yep.
absolutely shocked to see Matt as a traitor. He says that, that man's a genius. He never suspected Matt,
No,
apparently.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but then Dan takes it off, and he is just over the moon. Lots of high fives and hugs and stuff. Obviously
Yeah. He's like,
the
oh yeah.
homies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
and
probably also happy because he was like, I did guess that correctly, since he was,
yeah,
gunning for him, sort of.
yeah. But something I did quite like is that just the three of them, you can tell that they're like a bunch of troublemakers, almost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's that kind of like the boys energy,
yeah. I quite like the sort of dynamic they had. But for me personally, the best part about this episode was the breakfast, right? Because everyone quickly sort of figures out that, okay, there's been a seduction, right? Because all the chairs are still there. But when Brooke walks in, and he's just a hot mess all, all over the place.
He was so stressed. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's hugging people, he's like high fiving people, and you can kind of tell he doesn't know what to do with his arms. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, we just
Sort of
have a
thinking it a
couple
lot.
quick comments here from Andre. The pajama alliance proves nothing. Well, do you see, Andre? Here's the thing about pajamas. All right, depending where you are in the world, some people they like to sleep, in their undies or like naked or something, but pajamas are actually a rare thing sometimes, right? And not just any pajamas though. These are like, the classic sort of striped, pajamas. I think Brooke was wearing green and Matt was wearing blue or something. These are like some like the classics, right? So if you really want to build a good key alliance, you wear the exact same pajamas. What's your thoughts on that, Hamish?
I think I don't really have a good response to that. That's just cooked.
Oh, and a couple more here. Muck, the troublemaker for the traders. Brother. Actually, I think we were talking. No, I was talking about with Nathan. He's a good friend of ours. When I used to play Werewolf and Mafia, with Hamish and some of our people in, the theatre sports group, I would be a villager, but I would lie about being, like the sheriff, and I'd be like, I know exactly who is the werewolf
Why would
because
you do
I'm
that,
the
bro?
sheriff, and that person is.
You just wanted to ruin the game. Like you didn't care
I
about
did.
winning.
Yeah, I really didn't. I really didn't. And, it always resulted in me either being killed off immediately by the werewolves because it's like, nah, this guy is just, too nuts. We don't want to have him alive. Or I'll be the first one voted out anyways. Like,
Yeah. Too chaotic.
yeah. And that's why we stopped playing Mafia and Werewolf because that game was rigged.
Yeah, but yeah, you would definitely be you would bring some chaos to the traders for sure.
Definitely. We'd like to see Hamish on New Zealand competition too. Yeah. Is there would you like think about doing a show like Traitors, Hamish?
So yeah, there are definitely some shows that I wouldn't want to be on. Like there are some shows that like you know, I'm pretty opinionated with the TV that I like. So there are some shows I would just like, I'd cringe if I saw myself on, but Traitors is not one of them.
Yeah.
I I love this kind of game where you have to kind of use your psychology and you like do the
Mm.
reads and stuff. It's similar in a lot of ways to Survivor. And as we continue, we start to see more similarities to Survivor than we I think initially expected.
Yeah.
And I like that, man. Like that's cool the way it works. The strategy, I love strategy. But you know me, like I also love like spooky things. I love horrors and I love like kind of like dark things like crime, like thrillers and stuff. And so the idea of being on the Traitors and being one of the Traitors, like strategizing, or like who are we gonna murder tonight, like creeping
Yeah.
around, I would love that, man. I would so love that.
Yeah. I feel like definitely playing the traders, the best part would be being the traders, right? Because you get to choose, do we
Mm.
play it safe or do we really, muck things up? Like do we really, like
I think
cause as
you
much
would
chaos
be
as possible?
Matt and I would be Dan.
You're just saying that because you're a massive Dan fanboy,
I
Hamish.
think I'm a massive Dan fanboy because like he reminds me of how he makes me think of how I would be playing.
Yeah. Well, I definitely am similar to Matt because just like in Mafia and Werewolf, my downfalls were always pretty much the same as poor as poor Matt, at the banishment. But just before we continue, like in Big Brother, everyone has the same hairstyle. Yeah, exactly. If everyone has, the same haircut, that's immediately like a massive bond of trust. Like Hamish, what if you saw someone with same, facial hair length as you? Like, won't you
Okay,
just be like,
to be
this
honest,
is
if
my
I see
homie?
somebody who's like committed to growing a beard, like it doesn't have to be long, but if they're committed, usually like people point out my beard. Like at work, I get a lot of people be like, "I like your beard," but like there'll be sometimes like somebody at the gym will be like, "Oh, do you mind if like I use this 20?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I'm not using it." And as they're like turning around to walk away, I'll be like, "I like your beard, by the way." Like I think like anyone watching this with like a proper beard will agree. Like you see another like properly bearded person in public, and like you're like, "Okay, we're brethren." Like I have more trust for this person.
Yeah, either that or they just forgot how to use the cheeky scissors, eh?
um, is that like you with that bum fluff on your upper lip?
As a chocolate milk stain, actually, Hamish.
Oh,
Get it right.
sorry, my bad. I mistook it for facial hair. I realize it's not. What's the next comment?
Horror movies being released or about to be released has been awesome this year. Yeah, actually, I saw one. That's going a bit off topic, but the Evil Dead Rises, probably my favorite horror film of this year. It was just everything I wanted. It was blood, gore, action, horror. It was great. How about you, Hamish? Any cheeky little horror films?
Not this year. I'm the kind of person who doesn't often watch movies, but when I do, I'm like really into them, and it's just like, yeah, it's just a horror, basically.
Yeah.
I like how like really a kind of underground like film academy weird artistic horrors. Like, yeah, we'll get back to the Traitors, but
Yeah.
my favorite movie is called The Mouse. Mouse being spelled like
Mm,
Maus, and it's more of like a thriller than a horror, to be fair. But it's like really messed up. It's like psychologically and I love stuff like that. Just really heavy, like uncomfortable movies.
yeah. Which, if, Ginger Purple.
I like
Oh my
Andre.
god.
I like this guy.
Oh,
You
Andre.
want to be a traitor with me, Andre?
Yeah. All right, let's get back. Let's get back to the traders. We've gone way off, but there's a very interesting strategic moment that Dan has actually, where he tells Sam and Anna, "Watch out for everyone else's, facial reactions because I can't see them." So he's kind of telling them like, "Watch out to see who's acting, not that surprised." Um, to like everyone like walking in and stuff like that, which I
Mm.
thought was a great idea by Dan because he's trying to build trust by showing that like, hey, I'm trying to hunt these traders just like you guys. So let's sort of keep an eye
It's
out
a
on
double
things.
whammy though, because he builds trust by doing that, but in doing so, he casts suspicion on other people because they'll watch around and somebody will just have a small reaction, like Mike did, as a
Yeah,
faithful, and they'll be like, "Oh man, like I'm so happy that Dan
yeah,
made me think it's this person." So it's a
yeah,
double whammy. It's casting blame without saying, "Hey, I think it's this person," without putting his name behind it. I'm the
Yeah.
one who thinks it's them. He's like making people think that they came up with that person in a way, and in doing so, he's also building trust. It's that I think that was a very like subtly very good move.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And something else we see from this breakfast is Brody. She goes hard after Matt. She sat back and let Mike go. She's very upset, but she's like, no, I need to take this game more into my own hands. She needs to make sure that all the trades are actually going up, not the faithfuls. And she's like, I'm coming after Matt.
Mm,
Which, once again, another spot on read
mm,
by Brody. I think she's 4 for 4. I think, she actually knew that Robbie was not a traitor. She
right.
knew that Lauren is pretty suspicious. She actually knew that Vanda is not a traitor. And I guess,
She's pretty onto it, yeah.
while her read on Colin, is a bit off, it's actually not that off in terms of why does he keep throwing out Vanda for like no real
Yeah, I mean it
specific
makes
reason.
sense.
Yeah. And then
She's
she
not as
comes in.
onto it as like Brooke and Justina, but
Yeah.
yeah, she's definitely like up there with her being able to see it.
Yeah. And then, she targets Matt, which is once again, another great spot on read by Brody. And, she goes around and she's telling people, I don't buy the whole Matt's acting, like his whole like, oh, I don't even know what the game is, don't even know what the rules are, is all for show. And everyone start to slowly, turn against that. If you're in like Matt's position here, where because even Matt was starting to realize that like his whole like playing dumb isn't really working out. How do you sort of change your strategy from here? Do you reckon from just playing dumb to like being more spot on? How
You
do
have
you
to
change?
wait. You have to wait till you have a moment to think. So be that when you're alone at night, be that when you're in the car or whenever, and just kind of play through the scenarios in your head. If I came into this game not really fully taking it seriously, but then started to actually get immersed in it, how would that progression look? How would I
Hmm.
naturally be like that? And then try to um, play that. I think that the thing with Matt is that he had a very, effective strategy to a certain extent. It
Yeah.
worked for a little bit, but like I think he was good when he's good at his strategy when it's working. He's not good at it when it's not. And what I mean by that is like when people start to be onto him, he's actually not that good at lying. At least
Yeah.
that's what I think we saw.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think he even said that. He's good at, sort of creating a bit of a persona about him. But when it comes to, straight down the barrel lying, that's sort of where he gets a bit like
Yeah,
off of this game. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I think
But
that
what
like there are a lot of things that you can do that give away that you're nervous. Like for
mm,
example, he was jiggling his legs a lot when they were
yeah.
kind of like interrogating him. And like obviously you can try to tone down these things too hard that then all of a sudden you become too flat. Like you're intentionally trying to like blink slower and then you blink like too slowly and it looks weird.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to breathe, slower and or like not as deeply and all of a sudden you fucking are so flippant don't look like you're breathing at all. And so you can do it too far the other way. But I think that yeah, he just didn't have a control on his like nervous tics. Um
Yeah.
so you could read right through him.
Yeah. And just one last moment before we move on to the mission. It made me laugh so much. We're at breakfast, and it's like, so was anyone here seduced but turned it down? But I think Brooke like misheard the question, and he's like, yes. And everyone just, looks straight, looks straight at him, and everyone starts laughing. And it's like, oh, I don't know what I just answered to, ha ha ha. And he's like, trying to leave.
No,
I
he
thought,
he he was like, yeah, like everyone. He was just like yes, and then everyone was like, what? He like got seduced but turned it down, and then he was just
yeah,
like, because the way Anna asked it, she was like, is this how it works? Is it like, is it right that like you can get
yeah,
seduced and turn it down? Did that happen to anyone? He's like, yes. Oh, like yes, that is how it works.
yeah,
When he first said yes, I was like, no way, like that's how he's gonna play it. Like he's gonna do
yeah,
the I got seduced but turned it down thing. Like it's like
yeah. This,
high risk, high reward that strategy. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
But I think it's more
Um,
risk because then it's like, then why? Because if you're not murdered the next night, then there's
yeah,
something else,
maybe.
you
I
know?
mean, I don't know. Yeah, it depends on how the game goes. Like I
True.
say, high risk, high reward. Um, yeah, maybe higher risk, but I think still high reward. Anyway, yeah, was a close one.
Yeah, it was definitely a close call. But we see, Brooke and Brody, they're having a conversation about Matt, both Brody and Anna, like, really, stuck on Matt. But Brooke tries to, casually throw out Colin and Julia by being like, do you really think you could get the numbers against Matt? Which that puts a lot of doubt into Brody's mind. Like, oh gosh, what if I shoot for Matt and
It's
miss?
too
Right?
early, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Because I think if you go really hard after someone, but you fail, like you just got to hope that they're not a traitor, because then they might kill you off
yeah, I mean,
next.
it's similar, and then also you might look too violent, and people might want to think like, is this person like a traitor? Like they're just sending it too hard.
Mm,
It's kind of like for people who've seen Survivor, the heroes versus villains, when Michael at the start's so like, it's get George out, we have to vote him out,
yeah,
and then like
yeah,
everyone's just like, okay, this Michael guy needs to go.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, we'll move forward onto the mission, which I really like this mission. I'm a bit of a
Yeah, me
spirituality,
too.
kind of guy, and I quite liked how it is set in Chris's room, where she got brutally murdered, and there's stuff like flipped on the ground. I'm surprised they didn't get buckets of red paint and just like throw them on just on the wall
Yeah,
to make like a blood splatter or
that
something.
would have been an expensive cleanup, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Also,
But
people don't tend to have like buckets of paint worth of blood just like spilling out when they get murdered.
yeah, I
Not
mean,
that
I
I
don't
would know.
know. Anyway, so, so with this mission, they had to divide themselves up into three groups, two groups of five, one group of four, where they spot as many details as they can, in Chris's bedroom before the poltergeists come in and mess the whole room up. Then after that, they'll have 1 minute to find five differences, like five things that are different, to get the full cash prize available. But there's also a twist on this, where the winning group will, like that 5 or 4 person group, will have a shot to win pretty much individual immunity from the traders. What did you think? Yeah, what did you think about this mission, and what do you think about the twist of individual immunity?
I like and dislike it. The reason I could dislike it would be that it's like so reflective of Survivor that it's just like
Mm,
it almost feels like, did they have a different idea?
yeah,
But then also like I mean it's there, how many different like that different things can you do? And it is very cool, and obviously we can understand the concept because we've seen Survivor, and I think that if they just kept it how it has been and they didn't have little things like this, then it
mhm,
wouldn't be it could get bland, and it's cool that they're adding these little things, so at least there's something different happening, and it definitely adds more of like a strategic like a boundary, like okay, like the traders can't vote for this person this round, and then as we saw, two traders were on the winning team that went in there, and then so that adds the strategy, like if they kill somebody on their team, that's because they know that person doesn't have the shield. If the trader is on not the winning team, the trader wouldn't vote for somebody on that team. It's too risky.
yeah,
So that if they vote for Philly, for example, right, um, because Philly was on the winning team, then everyone else would be like, they clearly knew he didn't have the shield, the individual
mm,
immunity. Um, so it's very very likely a trader was on that team, and that narrows it down too much, and so that adds this
yeah,
big like strategic element. So I like the way that it kind of puts a twist on how they have to strategize who they murder.
yeah. Oh, I absolutely loved it as well. The whole individual immunity concept, and also just the challenge as well. I feel like it was just a fun challenge because we saw a couple different things. We saw Julia, the police officer, tell people where to look and what to do. But as Colin pointed out, she wasn't going around helping them search. She was telling them where to search and what to do. And
I mean,
then in
that could be
the
part of how it actually is on the police job. Like perhaps there's somebody who's more supposed to be like, you guys go there and like a supervisory person. I don't know. I'm not a policeman.
yeah, I'm not a police officer either. All I know is that they like donuts because I like donuts too. But, but anyways, and then the other group, Brooke is frustrated. He's so frustrated because Robbie isn't sticking to one area. She's going around to all the different areas, and he's like, you know what? I am down to banish her.
Not, yeah. Like I mean, obviously he's a traitor, but like even if he was a faithful, like he doesn't care if she's a traitor or not. Like he just wants her gone because she's not
Yeah.
helping.
But poor Robbie, like she's the only, real normal person on this car. She doesn't really know anyone. And this is like, the second time out of, three banishments where she's put in the hot seat to to Tiger, where everyone's just so
The thing
gung-ho.
is, like, she's nice. Like, she's like a nice person, and she's like a social person, and that's cool. But she really doesn't do a lot to help herself. Like, I think that
Yeah.
like some people don't think as much before they say things, and in a game like this, it's not helping her much. It just feels bad, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. But there were 5 differences to the room, which is a different colored toothbrush. There was a different lamp, a different cushion. The wine was different. They changed it from a rosé to, I think, to another white wine, like a Chardonnay or something. And there was a framed butterfly where the original frame had a lot of butterflies, but then it changed to just a singular
Yeah, one
butterfly.
big one. Yeah.
Yeah, which I feel like these are quite oddly specific things, but they're not too specific, if that makes sense. Where I feel like it was actually a pretty good job with all these
Yeah,
things.
I mean, like, the contestants did get some of them. Like Philly guessed the toothbrush, for example. And that's a minor detail, but clearly they were able to spot that. So yeah, it was. I liked this challenge. I thought this was like a cool mission. I liked the
Yeah,
concept.
yeah, that was a really great mission. And the team of Brooke, Dan, Philly, and Robbie, they all win immunity. Well, they don't win immunity; they get the chance to get
Mm.
immunity. And I thought that they were maybe going to come down to a vote where they had to vote for someone in that group to have immunity. But I kind of liked that instead it was all luck based, where one at a time they had to walk up, open a casket, and I grab
Wouldn't call it a
and
casket.
yeah, or like a box, I guess, and
Just
and
the dead body of Chris and Kimberly.
yeah, the dead body of Chris and Kimberly times 2, and they opened it, and if there was an immunity, then they grabbed it as but if it wasn't, then it was empty. But something that I wasn't entirely too sure about was they left it open, so it's kind of like because originally I was thinking like, oh, if they leave it open, then it's going to be like, oh, then that one didn't have immunity in it. But what I didn't realize that you could actually take it out, so it looked like that your box was empty. Did you like how they approach this by having people got one by one to
Oh right, yeah.
get it?
Like when I was watching it, I was thinking like somebody would walk in and see, okay, this box is empty. This person went before me clearly doesn't have the shield, but you're right. Like they would just take out the shield, and then the other people would go up. So it's like they don't technically know. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I guess it makes sense. Like there were other ways they could have done it as well, but I think those ways would have been very complicated. So I mean, this was pretty straightforward.
yeah,
Um, you and I were like saying which box we thought it would have been, and we both would not have got it. I thought top
I
right.
got it. No,
Did
no,
you get
no,
it?
no, no, no. Yeah, I said it was top right. You said it was bottom right.
Did I say bottom right?
Yeah, you said bottom right. Yeah, because your argument was that on the left it's just too natural to turn your body that way, so naturally
Yeah,
on the right
yeah.
hand
To
side,
start from the
that
left
it
because
would
that's how
be
we write. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. I don't know. I got
yeah.
it wrong. You got it
Wow,
right. Fine.
yeah.
You would
How
have
dare
gotten the shield.
how dare you try to take credit away from me, Hamish? You know I need all the ego boosting I get, especially with how much Chris and Kahuna dog on my my survivor takes. But
I can't imagine why they would do that.
Yeah, because Sneaky Steve and Rogue are the best two players in Australian Survivor.
I was actually really being sarcastic.
Oh gosh, but anyways, Robbie gets immunity, but there's a twist to this immunity as well, where it can save you from being killed by the
Traitor.
traitors, but it cannot save you from the banishment. And I'm not entirely sure about this because I haven't fully watched the other traders. If this has popped into the other trader shows, but if anyone here knows, does this immunity last for only one round, or can it last for like multiple rounds? Like, can
I
Robbie?
I think they alluded to the fact that it would be one round because I'm pretty sure Paul said this will keep you safe tonight.
Okay, because I wonder, like, if it could last multiple rounds, then could you maybe try to use it as a threat? It's like, "Huh, you don't want to waste a kill on me.
Yeah, right. Like it's kind
I've
of like
got
an idol.
immunity." Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if there's maybe this each round from now on. We'll see.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think Robbie getting it doesn't really do a lot though, because like for her, like let's be real, the traders aren't going to kill her. She's by doing virtually nothing, she's taking at least 3 votes every single time. Like she's got
Yeah.
so many people like suspicious about her. She's not going to get voted out, which means so she's not going to get killed because she's a meat shield for the traders.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so she doesn't really need the shield. It doesn't really do much, but
Yeah.
it's kind of funny.
Yeah, if it saved people from banishment, then definitely Robbie needed it
Yeah.
the most. But unfortunately, it doesn't. It only saves you from the traders. But we'll move along where Brooke, who sort of questions Julia because he's trying to take some of the heat off of Matt. We talked about earlier how Matt gets questioned, but he's like really nervous. He's shaking his legs, sort of shivering his arms. But Julie doesn't defend herself well there either. Brooks tries to ask her, "Are you a traitor?" She's like, "Oh, what?"
No, she's like,
Yeah.
well, like I'm just gonna say, like, if you vote me out, like you're just gonna regret it.
Oh, yeah, that as well. Yeah. She's like, "If you vote me out, you're
You'll
gonna
just
look like
find
a
out that you're
fool."
wrong. Like,
Yeah.
okay, bro,
Yeah.
mean evidence. I like that.
Yeah. If you get rid of me, you can look like fools at the end of this.
Is that like blackmail?
Yeah, exactly. I love that approach. I like to maybe let's quickly make a segment here, Hamish. Actually, just while we're
Oh
here.
God, here we go.
Let's quickly make a segment. Let's try and incorporate this into every podcast we do. It is the greatest strategic moment in, in every week. So obviously we had it with Sam Fury running off to take the team.
Well, that is the smartest move of the game, not just the
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, exactly. No. It is the smartest move of the week. Sam Fury runs off, grabs 7th of the prize just for showing up on day one and gaps it, and then Julia here, which I personally believe that this would be the smartest decision of the week. Hamish, not sure what your thoughts are, but just straight up telling people, if you vote me out, you're gonna look like a fool at the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Hamish? Have you got something to counter that for this week?
The only thing that I can think of that could come close would be, and I know what she meant because she explained it later on, but like would be when, when Robbie went up to Philly and she was just like, "We have a pact." Like, bro, like just say like you're not even a traitor, but just tell him you're a traitor.
Yeah. Pretty much. All right, we will decide on the smartest move of the game for this week at the end of the podcast. So if anyone else here in the live has any suggestions, drop them in the live comments.
Andre is gonna get thinking.
All right, so
the best move.
All right, so we move on from Julia. Matty crumbles under pressure to all of Brody's questions, and Brooke, once again after the challenge, he goes really hard on Robbie. He wants Robbie gone because she was kind of slacking in the mission a wee bit. But then Philly, on the rewatch, I noticed that Robbie did actually say, we formed a pact, or sort of like mumbled a bit. But originally I was thinking, is Philly lying about this?
No,
You
because
know?
what she was saying was that they formed a pact prior to going to the armory that they wouldn't say if they got the shield. As a
Yeah,
group, they collectively said decided we're not going to say if we got the shield. That way we don't, we're
yeah,
all covering our own backs. No one's going to get suspicious or anything.
yeah,
And that's she went up to Philly to basically say don't tell me if you got it. We formed a
yeah,
pact, but
yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah, she just didn't put it right.
Yeah, yeah, because originally when Philly's like, oh, she's saying, we formed a pact, we formed a pact. She's trying to, I guess, make alliances or something because, she's a traitor. Originally, I thought Philly was lying about it because I was like, wait, I don't remember
Right.
Robbie,
Like,
Robbie
like,
saying
like
that.
he's not even a
Yeah.
traitor, but he's gonna make up lies about other players just because he doesn't like them and just wants them to get voted out. He's just like, didn't you come up to me and say hey, if we seduce you tonight, will you just do stuff like that?
Oh, that'd be so funny. And I was going to say, yeah, Matt tries to lie. And, well, I'm not sure if it was really lied. This chance it could be real, but during the banishment, when he's put on the spot, he brings in so much more personal information than was really needed. He talks about how, I was just not really caring about the game because I've got so much work to do. Things that pretty busy right now. But it was only yesterday I started thinking, wow, okay, I actually really like this game. I'm going to take it seriously. What did you think of Matt's argument to why he's playing dumb?
Okay, so the story that he spun in and of itself wasn't bad. I think that communicated or expressed correctly, people that could be believable. The way he did it was so okay, as I mentioned earlier, things about psychology and stuff I find fascinating. And the thing is, when a lot of people are lying, they will answer questions that aren't asked. Like
Yeah,
you know, it, if you say oh hey, do you know what happened to that painting over there when you're the one who took it? You'd be like, oh yeah, and, I don't know what happened there. I come in every morning and I'm always keeping an eye out for it. I'll let you know if anyone has taken it or
mm,
anything. And it's just they didn't ask. They just said, do you know why it's not there? And
yeah,
so when he went from being this very chill, I don't really care, aloof kind of, and all of a sudden he's just I've just been so busy at work lately, and he goes on this
yeah,
big tangent, and it's just this complete switch, and he's just saying all this stuff about his personal life, and I get what he was going for, but it's just you're over explaining this story, which is so flip the switch to 100. Nobody asked about it. They're
yeah,
just trying to figure out if you're the traitor or not. It obviously we know he's a traitor because we know he's a traitor, but
yeah,
I like to think that I would have seen that big elaborate story and just been that seems way too much like a lie. I don't. Yeah, he said himself he's not very good at lying down the barrel, and
yeah,
yeah, I think that is a very good indicator of him being correct about that. It just seemed like a not very well not very convincing lie.
yeah. And shortly after this, Philly and Brooke they go quite hard at Robbie, and Robbie very smartly is actually able to deflect some of this, I guess, not really hate going towards her, but some of this attack coming at her right onto Julia, which once again I feel like Julia doesn't really defend herself properly either. She's kind of like, well, if you want to vote me out, I'm cool with that.
But you'll
And,
regret it.
yeah, but you'll regret. You're gonna look like a fool at the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they go to cast votes, and unfortunately for Matt, he did get voted up. It was a really close vote. So we had Juliet vote for Matt. Justine was originally going to vote for Matt, but then she changed it to Robbie just because, based on some of the answers and some of I guess the body language, is now more uncertain about her. So that's one for Matt,
Yeah.
one for Robbie. Robbie voted for Julia. Dan voted for Julia. Matt voted for Julia. I found it to be quite funny when Matt's like, "Well, I don't really need an explanation for this because you voted for me, so here you go."
Yeah.
As he
Yeah.
puts up
Yeah.
his vote for Julia. Dylan, Anna, Brody will vote for Matt. Brooke and Philly vote for Robbie. Sam votes for Matt. Kings votes for Julia. Vander votes for Philly just because of his sort of outburst where because he comes in hot against Robbie, and I think Vander didn't quite sit right with her. So she
Yeah,
kind of,
no, so yeah, because like Philly had said a few times, like, during breakfast and like in the evening, like this person said this person said this, like to him.
yeah,
And then Vander said something along the lines of like, you're saying all these things that people have done and said to you. Like, where's your proof? No one else was there to hear it, or no one else was there to see
yeah,
it. Like, you could just be effectively making it up.
yeah. And then it all came down to Colin. He could have tied it up with Julia, which would have gone to revote, or he could have sent Matt home. And I had my fingers, my toes, my hairs, my arms all crossed that it was going to be a tie, so the Matt could be saved. But unfortunately, Colin votes for Matt. And poor Matt gets the unanimous number of votes. And I was quite sad to see Matt go. He was a very entertaining character throughout these first 4 episodes. I feel like it was kind of, everywhere all at once. He was playing dumb. He was really goofy. He had a lot of quick, funny one-liners, and he just seems like a really fun guy. What's your thoughts on that?
I liked him as a character. He brought like obviously Dan is a more of like your kind of like strategic. He's like the crocodile in the river, kind of. And
Mm,
then so he brings the color in a sense. Not that Dan isn't a colorful or social person, but he brings the color to the Traitors,
yeah,
and makes it not just like fun to watch from like a strategic and like a really like wow, like that's smart, kind of like a clever standpoint, but he
yeah,
brings the fun, he brings the banter. Obviously Brooks got a bit of that too. Um yeah, I mean, it's sad to see him go. I wish that he was playing it really well up until that last episode. Like he just once he had the heat on him, he didn't handle it well. Similar to how Lauren was not good at lying once the heat came her way. Um,
yeah,
yeah, just oh well.
yeah. It's really sad to see Matt go. I've got nothing but love for him. He cracked me up so many times. But let's have a quick look at Andre's comment here. 2 for 4, but doesn't count as nearly everyone knows each other. Yeah, I feel like it's now starting to ramp up where yes, everyone knows each other, but they're starting to pick apart everyone's not really personalities almost, but everyone's sort of getting like more of a clear idea on who's more suspicious and normal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like we saw, Mike, he was very well connected coming into here, with a few other, sort of broadcasters he's worked on TV with, Brady being one of them, but he was still the, third person, eliminated, the second one pretty much voted out in a bit of a landslide. So,
Andre does raise a good point though. I mean, because Brooke was able to be onto, like, I don't think really, other than Justine, no one's really picking Dan, I don't think, but Brooke was well onto him because he knows him. And then Sam was so onto Lauren because he knows her, right? And so
yeah,
I think it's a good point. And while I don't think that takes away from the show at all, I think it's cool. It would be interesting to see it with total strangers if everyone was Robbie, you know.
yeah. Yeah, no, no, absolutely. I feel like when it's, complete strangers, the game's more up in the air. But I actually kind of like that everyone sort of knows each other, especially because it's
Mm,
people who we kind of know. Like I know that, when we're discussing, the cast, going to the first week, it's like none of these people are really like top New Zealand celebrities, but they're pretty like well known, right? And and because something about the New Zealand media, I've worked on film sets and stuff before. It's very easy for your name to get thrown around like really quickly, if that makes sense. So everyone like kind of knows each other. So many different connections. Like you might be working on one shoot, but you're also going to all these other different sets and stuff like that, just helping out. So names get thrown around really quickly. Different the New
mm.
Zealand media, everyone kind of has heard or kind of knows each other to a certain degree. And so when it comes to this cast of traders, it just feels like you're watching a friend group play Mafia almost. Well, a
Yeah,
friend group.
yeah, and that definitely makes it cool in a way. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't think it takes away from it at all. I think it's really cool. Um, you know, and it does make you think, try to be like Mimi, like, you know, who would be somebody who, like, you know, is known in New Zealand, not necessarily like, you know, the most known person, but, you know, like just something gonna be like memeable, like, you know, like Max Key
Yeah.
or something, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. Yeah.
No, bro, we need Quade Cooper.
Yeah, well, on the Aussie
The
one.
Kiwi, yeah, the Kiwi who
Kiwi
then
versus
became
Aussie.
Australian. Yeah, Kiwi versus Aussie, the Traitors. Bro, if he was a traitor, that would be. If he was
No,
a
that's
trader on
actually a
the New
cool
Zealand
point
Traitors,
though,
that
G.
would be
Like
great.
some rugby players, like I'd want to see TJ Perenara on that. Like I feel like that would be interesting to watch, you know.
Mm.
I feel like
Yeah,
I feel like he'd have like Brody energy, you know.
oh, definitely, definitely. But I
Mm.
also feel like.
Rogue. No.
Yes, yes, let's get
Turn
rogue
this
on
person
the
off.
Traitors Australia.
Unselect that.
No, we're gonna leave this up for the rest of the life. I'm in power now, baby. We're gonna give Rogue some love. No, let's
To
quick
be
bring
fair,
up.
I also agree with you, Andre, about his facial expressions. I think that when he's trying to be strategic, that his face is very good. But I feel like when he's just like chilling and then people say things, I think that yeah, it does kind of like he does a lot of that. Like he's uncomfortable and you can see his like tongue movement in his mouth, kind of in this very like oh kind of way. Like I
Yeah,
think that if you watched him closely enough, that you yeah you might spot it if you're like observant.
yeah, because Andre had that, like he sort of pointed out about how he's got like a bit of a twitch in his eye,
Mm,
every time he's kind of lying. And he says here that his facial expressions and body language has so many tales. And what's this here? Submitting Dan at breakfast, getting other contestants to watch others' changes and behaviors for best strategy of the week. Who's Dan?
that was going over my head.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Andre, but that one's really going over.
It's
Is
like
that
here's the comment, and it's like.
is Dan maybe like one of the breakfast hosts?
Or is he saying that we should get Dan, the traitor, onto breakfast?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
This is a real brain tease.
Considering that we are the CEO of TVNZ Breakfast,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh
the
yeah.
CEO, the co-founders, let's make that happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
The poke
You know.
player,
He
he just pokes people on Facebook.
yeah, exactly. Getting Dan on the breakfast. Yeah, I'd love to see Dan on the breakfast. He's actually quite entertaining to listen to, especially when he talks out all of his different
Yeah,
thoughts and opinions on
I
things.
agree.
It's very smart. But after the vote, Matt announces, he's a traitor and everyone's celebrating hard, especially Brody. But Brody is really shaken up after this because she even says that she is gone next.
Yeah. Like Robbie was like, "Oh, they're gonna kill me." Why would they kill Robbie? Like, I know
Yeah,
that Brooke wants her gone because he doesn't like her, but like, bro, like she should not be a target for the traders. She is by
yeah,
doing nothing. The traders don't even have to like spin people their way, like her way. People, she's
yeah,
gonna get 3 votes every round. She's not gonna go out. She's not gonna get enough
yeah.
votes to be voted out. But she's just the perfect meat shield. The traders don't have to do
Mm,
anything. Like, she's basically a trader. Like, she's working for them.
yeah,
You know. So like, she's not getting voted out.
yeah,
Brody is
no,
a target,
absolutely.
you know, and so
She's
she's
gonna be
like,
a big
"Don't
target.
worry, Robbie. Like, it's me. I'm going next."
Yeah, and we sort of we, we very quickly move on from all that. Everyone goes to bed, but Brooke and Dan, they go into their little Shrek toilet hut, as I like
Yeah,
to call it.
the Smash Mouth
And
hut.
yeah, and Brooke actually warns Dan because they sort of break down what went wrong with Matt, and something they both said, which is actually kind of true, is that Matt wasn't throwing anyone's names around. He was kind of like be like, oh, I think the general sort of target is this person and that person, right? But he was never really trying to be like, oh, I think it could be this person, I think it could be that person. So Brooke was warning Dan, like, you got to start, putting people's like names out there
Being more
on who you think
vocal.
you can betray this.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's
because
a
he had
fine
a
line to tread, though, because you don't want to be a Brody, you know, and then if she,
yeah,
not just because she obviously gets the traders upset, like if Brody's wrong, like she'll get the faithful upset. I think
yeah,
something Dan's been doing well is making people think of the wrong person. But then
Yeah,
once they've thought of that, I think Dan's just sitting in the back like, cool, they're voting for that person. And I think what he needs to do is to, like, let's say I'm Dan and you're a faithful, be like, oh,
yeah,
like, just I've been watching out for this kind of stuff, alluding that it's XYZ. And I make you think you thought of it, right? And now you're like, oh, bro, it could be XYZ. And then I'm like, actually, you know what? You're so smart. You're so right. I'm going to vote with you. And so he should still
yeah,
do what he's doing, but then he should pretend to be like Anna. You know how Anna is like Brody's like right arm? He should
yeah,
be Anna to somebody. I think that would
yeah.
be the best way for him to play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. But I think as well that you can, like, he already had a moment where during the breakfast he was telling Anna and Sam, watch for people's facial expressions on who's like not surprised that everyone
Yeah,
is
yeah,
alive,
exactly.
right?
So he
Yeah,
should keep doing that, but then when somebody else throws out the name, then he should like full send it on like, you know what, you're so smart for saying this person's probably a traitor. I'm voting with you, and be more vocal
yeah,
in that way. But I think that it's too risky for him to be throwing out names because when
mm,
they're obviously faithful, then it's just too risky.
yeah, absolutely. And they decide that they're going to murder. They're not going to seduce because since they got quite a big win, because Matt as well, he was so social, so likable, so everywhere. There's a huge win for the Faithfuls. They want to try hit them
Break
hard
their morale
again,
again.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
break
morale.
their morale. And so they talk about three targets. They talk about Brody because she's really been, I say, probably player of the week in my opinion. Brody, she's really been
Mm,
out there. She's like she went hard on Matt. She never wavered, and she got it right. She stuck up for Vanda. She stuck up for Robbie, which is both accurate reads, and they can kind of sense that Brody's where the power's at. She says it's a name, everyone's going to start following her. So you've got
yeah,
Brody. They've got Colin, because Colin, he's also, while his reads have been, wrong in terms of on the traders, in terms of who he's targeting, he's definitely quite a social player. And while people aren't really starting to, trust him because of the Vander stuff, there seems to like be a bit of a cool off from that. So maybe he will gain everyone's trust again. But the third pick, which is a bit of a shocking pick for me, but maybe that's why they want to do it, is Kings.
mm.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So the Kings pick. Okay. So again, like they all get the same amount of time with everyone basically. And we see less of Kings because he's less in the edit. So it could
Mm,
very well be that he is a good pick, and we just haven't seen much of him in the edit. So it's hard for us to understand why. I
yeah,
don't think that's the case. It's quite clear that they have to pick three people that they're voting between, even if they're sold on one person. Like the producers would be like, okay, now say another name. They need three. Um, and it could just be that they're like, Kings, to just put a
yeah,
name in there.
yeah,
And
definitely.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty sold on Brody, to be honest. Like I think Colin would. It makes sense, but I think they were saying, who do you think we get murdered next? It's yeah, well, here we go. um, they were saying that if they kill Colin, maybe Brody would get spooked and like step back. Yeah, it could make sense. You get rid of Colin now
Mm,
while you have a good chance to get rid of him. Brody doesn't say much next round. Then you kill Brody the next round after that. It could make sense. Um,
yeah,
I think that it's probably risky. Like if Brody
yeah,
gets onto Dan, is he next? If Brody figures out it's Brooke, is he next? I just think there's no point. Um,
yeah.
and another option, and this is similar to what I said about Anna before. Um, I
Mhm.
rather than seducing Anna, if you kill Anna, because they've established the fact that Dan needs to be more vocal, and I said that his best strategy, I think, would be to be an Anna, you know. And
Yeah.
so if they kill Anna, what if Brody needs a new right hand person,
Mm,
and Dan is able to successfully seep into that role? Now, Brody's no longer a threat because
yeah,
Brody's going to be on somebody. Dan just has to sway her toward a not traitor. And then they can just,
yeah,
again, use Brody as this big bazooka, Like,
yeah,
I think that Brody, like, unless you're wanting to use her, you have to get her gone. Like, the longer
yeah,
she's in the game, the more risky it is. She's so volatile. She could vote
yeah,
for a faithful. She's probably going to vote for a traitor, and we've seen that she is very onto it. Get rid of her unless you're going to use her, And I think a
Mm,
good way to use her would be to make Dan replace Anna, because then like she's just this weapon of the traitors and she doesn't even know it. Like if that happens, like that would be so cool. I don't think it's gonna
yeah,
happen. I honestly think they're gonna vote. I think they're gonna kill um Brody. I think that they threw the Colin and the Kings in there kind of because they had to throw other names in. I think
yeah,
Brody's gone. She's played well. Like she's good at the game as and she's smart, but I think she's played too hard. But we'll see. What do you think?
yeah. I personally think like just take up Brady, right? Because
Like
the
you're gonna poke face them down.
because I think the thing about Brody, right, is that yes, you can try and sort of aim her in the wrong direction, right? But at the end of the day, she's her own person, right? And she's made her calls not I'd say not entirely on her own. She has had help with like the likes of Anna and Brooke in the past, but she's definitely been really onto it, right? And it's hard to shake, So if you get rid of Anna to try and I guess threaten Brody almost,
Not to
right?
threaten her,
But
but to
but
replace Anna and to get in with Brody. To
yeah,
use her.
but the problem with that, right, is that let's say Dan, right, is trying to buddy up with Brody, but if she already has a suspicion of Dan, that's never gonna shake, right? Because that's probably Brody's only
Mm,
thing. Where it's like once she has that feeling of you, she's never gonna shake it. So I personally feel like you take up Brody now, especially while it's so in general as well, right? Because if you take out like a Kings or a Colin, there's certain links which I mean I doubt that they'll link back to Brooke and Dan, but they could link back to other players. Whereas I felt with Brody, it's just such a good in general murder where there is no links, just specific people targeting her. It's like,
yeah.
yeah,
The best
the
time to
traders
vote
attack.
out somebody like Brody is right after she successfully banishes a traitor. Because
Yeah,
let's say she's going for Dan and it doesn't work, but Dan's a target. Now Brody's a risky kill because
yeah,
she's going for Dan, right? Or Brooke.
exactly.
Um, but she's just voted out Matt, and it's like, okay, obviously the reason they're going to kill her is because she voted out a traitor.
Yeah,
Does that mean that she's targeted anyone in particular? No, she's
yeah,
targeted the traitors. Obviously, the traitors would want to kill her. Doesn't mean it's obvious Brooke would want to go
mm,
on. It's just the
yeah,
traitors would get her up. So it's an obvious kill, and sometimes the obvious one is the one to go with. I think, and this is
yeah,
definitely an example of that.
yeah. Um, Another comment here from Andre: optimal move after second trader was banished, seduce or murder. Um, I feel like once the second trader has been banished and it's just you by yourself, you have to seduce, right? Otherwise, there's a chance where if you're targeted next, then the traders lose. That's just my opinion on that. What's your thoughts, Hamish?
It makes sense. Again, I love the idea of using Brody. So I think yeah. If they're killing, I do agree with you. It would be cool to maybe try to replace Anna with the kill, but you're probably right that it's too difficult. So if they're killing, I think it has to be Brody. If they vote Colin, I get it, but I think it's the wrong move.
Yeah,
But if they seduce instead, come on, man,
yeah,
just seduce Anna, bro. It's like I'm
yeah,
so I'm so sent on this tactic. Like I'm
yeah.
convinced this tactic works. So
You are so sent on this tactic, just like how Brody was so sent on Matt.
yeah, bro, I'm like Brodying seducing Hannah. So Anna, you know
Good
what I
God.
mean.
Yeah, yeah. Mucky, do you have a better poker face than Dan? Well, let's talk to, Hamish, you know me extremely well. Do you think I've got a good poker face?
Yes and no. So when you are trying to mess with someone, I think that you are very laughy and smiley,
Yeah,
and you do a
yeah,
lot of what is typically a tell, or what is
mm,
like
yeah,
what most people would can think of as a tell. Obviously, people
yeah,
have like specific tells, but yeah, I think that like in a way you don't hide when you're messing with people very well. But unfortunately, that's just how you act in general.
yeah,
How you act when most people, sorry, how people act when they're lying is how you act when you're being serious. Or you're
yeah,
never being serious, but that's the
yeah,
point, right? And so
yeah,
it's like, if you guys have heard of a game, it's actually got quite not PG friendly name. What's it? Bluff is another name for it. It's a card game where you where you put down cards upside down. And you basically have to lie or not about what cards you've put down, and people have to guess if you're lying. And anyway, and I remember playing that with you and some of my old flatmates at a flat a few years ago, and they were
That's
just
right. I remember.
like, bro, we
Yeah, I
can't
remember
read
this.
you because you're just always like, like scheming, even when you're
Yeah,
telling the truth. So,
yeah.
do I think you have a good poker face? No. Um, I think that if you went up to somebody and they hadn't already gotten to know you and you were lying to them out the gate, I think they would know you're lying. But if they knew you for like at least one whole day, then it's like the longer you know you, the harder you are to read.
I love, I love that. I love that. So, do you think, in this setting, if like after people potentially gotten to know me, do you think I would have a better poker face than Dan?
Then Dan? No, I think you would have gone at how Matt did. Honestly, I think you're
Yeah,
just Matt, bro.
yeah, probably. It's the hair. It's the chaotic energy. Yeah,
It's
it's
the chocolate milk bum fluff.
yeah, the chocolate. um, yeah, I'd say you've got a pretty good poker face, Hamish. But it's that thing of, I think also at a certain point you break as well. But often that's
Yeah.
when you're messing with me. Where it's like, I recall at one point, we're talking about potentially me being on Australian Survivor, and you're like, bro, I think you'll be first boot because you're just not funny. And 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 I thought you were like you being a bit serious, but when you saw that, like I kind of gave into it. You broke like
No, because
straight away.
the thing is, like, I wasn't trying to prank you or see how it go, but like I thought you would get that I was being sarcastic. I thought me being like, nah, bro, you're just not funny. Like I thought you would
Yeah.
just be like, ha ha ha. And then when I saw that you actually got hurt, I felt bad. I was like, no, like obviously I think you're funny, bro. Like it's funny
Did
to just be
everyone?
like, ha ha ha.
Hamish said live on the nullified take that I am funny.
But how do you know I
Was that
wasn't
the
lying, man?
Anyways, that is a great way to end the podcast here. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. We're so close to reaching 2K subs, and I know that Chris has got something pretty cheekily special up his sleeve for once we reach the 2K subs. And yeah, hit the like button and comment. What's your thoughts on this week? But wait, I forgot one thing, Hamish. We forgot to announce what the most strategic move of the week was. The best move.
Yeah.
So what's
a TNT theater sports team. Oh no.
Oh my gosh. Well, you got two coaches right here. I'm not one to sort of I'm not one to
No,
sort
I'm
of
retired
put
and
things
washed
out
up,
there.
bro.
I'm not one to really say anything, but when I was coach, we actually won competitions.
You know, Michael, you had two coaches, right? Right. I
Yeah.
grew that team up from nothing. You know what you know because of me. I created you, Michael.
Yeah, but did you pass inside level 3? But
Do you have a driver's license?
anyways, bro, we're just breaking each other hard. So
This
anyway,
could go on all night.
well, so the smartest move of the week, Julia, you're gonna look like fools if you vote me out. That's one. What's your suggestion, Hamish?
So originally my suggestion was the we made a pact.
Yeah, we made a pact, yeah.
But no, I'm gonna go with Julia. You'll look like fools if you vote me out.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have our second most strategic move of the week. We have Sam Fury, like taking 10K and gapping on the first day. And for the second week, we have Julia telling everyone
If they
you vote
vote
me
her out,
out,
then they'll regret it.
they're
Hey,
gonna look like
can we
fools
do
at
a
the end of
best,
it.
the smartest move of the season at the end?
Yeah. What we'll do is that I'll write them all down, and for the finale podcast, we'll go through all of them and see what was the most strategic move
That's cool. I
of
like
the New
this.
Zealand Traitors. All right. Thank you so much to everyone who joined the live. If you're new, please hit the subscribe button. Give us a bit of a cheeky like. And until then, I will see you all tomorrow when we cover the Australian Traitors, so that will be tomorrow night. I know for New Zealand time there'll be 11 p.m, but I don't really know for dumbest moves of every week. I'm not sure
I know
what
what
will
you're
be for
talking about,
Australian
bro. They
time,
seem pretty
but
smart to me.
but it should already be up on the channel. So I'll see you all tomorrow night there. But until then, have a great night, everyone, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Farewell.